Hi, my name is Leanne Jones. I'm here. We are here for the Society of Thoracic Surgeons General Thoracic Surgery Database User Group call for today, Wednesday, October the 28th. First, we'll go over our agenda. I'll cover our introductions of those of us on the call. Next, we'll tackle our STS updates, and then I'll turn things over to IQVIA for their update. And then we'll finish off with your user feedback. We'll have the opportunity for you all to submit your questions. And please be sure to include your ticket number, your case number when you do submit your questions. And again, just a friendly reminder to please submit your questions via the Q&A and not the chat box. Again, just please submit those via the Q&A. On the call today, we have from the STS myself, Leanne Jones. Other STS staff, we have Carol Crone and Catherine Holyfield. We also have Dr. Wormuth on our call as well today. From IQVIA team, we have Rhonda, Jeanette, Jean, Jeffrey, and Melanie. So thank you everyone for joining me on today's call. All right, for our STS updates, for those that were unable to join us on our last call, for those that were, these slides look familiar. Again, just a quick general thoracic harvest update. The spring 2020 harvest analysis is in progress. The reporting period is to include January 1, 2017 through 12/31/2019. The data analysis results will be provided to our participants mid to late November. So IQVIA is working to get those data into the system and get our dashboards, our risk adjusted and our benchmark dashboards created for you all. So that information will be coming again mid to late November. Also, educational webinars and materials will be provided on navigating the new dashboard. So that information again will be provided to you. Also, as you are all aware, the fall 2020 harvest has closed. Our fall 2020 harvest reporting period will include data from July 1, 2017 up through 6/30/2020, and that data is currently being prepped and sent over to DCRI for analysis. And as you all are aware, we are now accepting data for the spring 2021 harvest, and you all are welcome to submit data up through 12/31/2020. We have not yet set the harvest close date for the 2021 harvest, for the spring 2021 harvest, but that date will be coming soon. All right, for our general thoracic data version 5.21 update, as you all were aware that our 5.21 release has been delayed until July 1, 2021. We will be sending the specs to the vendors in January. One of the main reasons for this delay is STS and the surgeon leaders, we are working to clean up the procedures and diagnostic sections of the current data collection form. So we are working on that, and we are planning to have the specs to the vendors by January of 2021. Our AQO wrap up, again, just a thank you to everyone that joined us this year at AQO. As you all aware, it was our highest attended AQO ever. The recordings from the live sessions are available within the platform. Also, all of the AQO sessions, the lab recordings and the on-demand content will be available within the platform for an entire year. So if you did not attend AQO and you would like to purchase access to the AQO content, that is an option. So if you would like more information on purchasing access to the AQO content, you can feel free to email myself, ljones@sts.org, or you can also, I think you could contact Emily Conrad. She could also provide some information on that. And Emily can be reached at econrad, CONRAD, @sts.org. And also just a reminder, if you do plan to claim, continuing education credit, that must be claimed by December 31st of this year. Even though all information will be online for the next year, continuing education credit must be claimed by December 31st of this year. Just a reminder, all sessions must be viewed at the same time, or must be viewed, and the evaluation must be filled out at once. Next, we just wanted to go over a little bit of a COVID coding review. Just as a refresher for our data managers, we've gotten some questions So we just wanted to provide a little refresher for coding COVID. As you all are aware, our temp code 4070 and temp code 4080 are being utilized to collect data for the COVID variables. We just encourage you to please review to ensure that your cases are being coded correctly, because improper coding could possibly change your outcomes in the analysis. So again, we would like to encourage you to please review those cases that you have coded as positive as yes for COVID. And again, that would be harvest codes 11, 12, 13, and 14. And I believe Carol has a quick polling question that we'd like to ask. Okay, everyone's now seeing the result, the poll. So our question is, my patient had a PCR test for COVID-19 prior to admission for a scheduled lobectomy. The results are negative. I should code. You should either code no. Would you code yes prior to hospitalization for the surgery? Yes in hospital prior to surgery? Yes in hospital after surgery? Or yes after discharge within 30 days of surgery?
Thanks, Leanne. And as the poll's running, this is Carol. I just want to restate what Leanne had said, that improper coding could change your outcomes or analysis. If these cases are coded as any of the yeses, they will be excluded from analysis. So we have to make sure that the coding on these cases is accurate. So we don't exclude your cases. Through an error. And we will be auditing these fields in the next audit.
Great, thank you, Carol. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. It looks like everyone answered correctly, so I'm going to share the results. So that is correct. No, you would code no in this instance because the results are negative. So you would code no if the results were negative or if there was no PCR testing done for that patient. All right. And again, just to reiterate, the extracting the COVID-19 fields, the patient must be a positive PCR test to be coded as yes. Again, that's harvest codes 11, 12, 13, and 14. We are not asking for antibody testing. Again, antibody testing is not to be captured. Also, just to reiterate, code no for patients who are not tested and for patients who are tested for COVID-19 and that test is negative. If you have an instance where your patient has more than one positive test result, please be sure to collect the test closest to the OR date. And then also in regards to sequence 4070, when we ask for the date, just please know that please enter a date for a positive test only. We do not want a date for a negative test. And again, just a quick review. These are some of the questions that we've gotten, and also just a reminder that all this information can be found in the current training manual. So if you're not sure, again, if you have a COVID question, please be sure to check the training manual prior to submitting your question, as a lot of these questions are, like I stated, are currently in our training manual. So one of the questions, do we really need to go back to January to abstract the field? And the answer is no. You do not have to go back to January to collect this COVID data, but you can if your site was impacted early on. Again, that is a choice that it's not mandatory, but you can go back to January 1 if you choose. Our next question, will these patients be included in the outcomes? And of course, this is, again, just backing up what Carol had just updated us on. No, records coded as COVID positive, again, that's having harvest codes 11, 12, 13, and 14, will be excluded from analysis and from public reporting. So please be sure to, again, go back and review those cases and ensure that they were coded correctly. Another question that we've gotten is, can I extract a patient who is assumed to be COVID-19 positive, but was not tested? And the answer there is no. we only want you to code yes for a patient who has been confirmed to have a COVID-19 positive diagnosis through laboratory testing only. We don't want to document any assumptions here. And then COVID-19 after discharge, how would we code? So for patients that self-report testing positive for COVID-19 within 30 days of surgery, you would indicate yes after discharge within 30 days of surgery. So I hope that a little bit of that quick review has been helpful. Again, if you have any questions regarding how to code those COVID-19 fields, again, we do encourage you to check the training manual first to see if your question has already been answered. If not, please feel free to submit a FAQ, a clinical question, via the clinical question submission form, and the core group and surgeon leaders will be happy to address those questions for you. Next, I'm going to turn things over to IQVIA for our IQVIA update. I think Jeffrey's going to be taking this one. Jeffrey?
And actually, I'll do a quick introduction since Jeffrey is new. Hi, everyone.
Yeah.
It's Melanie. So I just wanted to introduce Jeffrey Matthews. He is a part of our Tier 2 support team. Some of you may have actually spoken with him and worked through issues. So we want to welcome Jeffrey to the call. This week, Joe is out. So Jeffrey will be taking over for providing the update. Jeffrey, over to you.
Thank you, Melanie. Good day, everyone. So yes, in our issues under review, we do have a handful of issues for the missing variable report, starting with STS 3924. The patient alive 90 days post-procedure variable is being flagged as missing when it has not yet been 90 days since the surgery date. So we're looking into that. The next issue, STS 3884, this is involving the clinical staging method, lung PET or PET/CT variable. It may be referencing the wrong parent field and as such is appearing on the report as missing when it should not be. The next issue, STS 4312, is impacting the variable race documented. Apparently, this variable is showing up in MVR as missing for patients with a demographic data version of 2.2, which is a problem since that version of the demographic form did not include that variable. It looks like logic is being investigated, or the logic of that variable is getting investigated at the moment. The next issue, STS 2619, apparently when the procedure filter is set to analyzed only, the ASA variable is not included in the MVR's results. When non-analyzed is selected, the variable does show where it should be showing when analyzed is checked. The next MVR issue, STS 3886, apparently the variable for clinical staging method esophageal is showing as missing for cases that are currently on the 2.41 data version, but however, they shouldn't be because this variable is not active or collected for version 2.41. Again, this is being investigated and probably the logic will need to be revamped for that. The final issue under review is for the dashboard. This is STS 3845. We're reviewing the 30-day mortality variable on the dashboard report because we have received a couple of reports that it may not be categorizing records correctly regarding as to whether the patients are still alive or passed on or dead. Please note if you have submitted tickets not listed here, rest assured they are currently under review and the IQVIA support team will follow up on a resolution and or target release confirmation. I believe that's all we have, Melanie.
Yep, thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you so much for joining us. Next, we're going to turn things over to Rhonda Murphy for our risk-adjusted dashboard report demo.
Hello, thank you. If I could share screens now.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Let's see. All right, I'll stop share, Rhonda.
Okay, thank you. All right. And share. Is my screen up?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So I wanted to show today the paper report that we are used to getting that has all of the different report areas. We've now taken that report and we've brought it online. And what you'll see here is I'm using my tool locally, so this isn't the exact user experience that you'll have, but it'll be very close to this. Once you log into the application and you get to the operational reports page, you will have this landing page here that takes you into each one of these different report areas. And so I wanted to go through and just give you some examples of what we're doing here. And starting with the lung cancer section, you'll see we have the lumpectomy STS NIS compare. This was that table 1 report that we used to get. The lumpectomy composite rating and the composite rating details. We have the lung cancer clinical staging procedures, the pulmonary resections, that combined morbidity and mortality, and then the detailed section, and then the lumpectomy risk adjusted outcomes. And so let me just, by clicking the button, you'll be taken to that report. And again, this is that report that we used to get, table 1, where we were looking at the STS and NIS numbers. So as you see here, we have the discharge mortality and the minimally invasive lumpectomy for clinical stage 1 lung cancer. We have those 2 domains where we're looking at up here, looking at participant STS and NIS comparisons. We have the table up top. We have the graph down below. What this graph is similar to that line graph that we used to see, where it plots our score, the MySite, relative to the STS score, and that confidence interval and those min and max ranges. And what we have here is the slider bar that will allow you to go in and zoom in more to see areas that may appear more condensed when you first look at the graph. And so as you see, zooming in, we now on this discharge mortality can see where MySite fell relative to STS and the NIS number. Down below, we have that postoperative length of stay. This is graphed separately from this because up here we're looking at different metrics, and here we're looking at that length of stay. So we're looking at the quartiles and the median value. And so we have this graph down below. But similarly, what you'll see here is, again, the participant STS, NIS, and then the graphical display of that number, where again, you have the zoom slider, though this is just one graph, so you may not need it here. Something to note is that when you have made these adjustments to the graphs to zoom in, this setting will retain for when I go to print this report, which I'll explain later. But this right here, zoom slider, if you want to reset it while you're in, you can simply right click and reset, or you can keep it that way for your print output. Going down to the composite quality rating, as you see, we have this graph up, this table up top, and again, that same graphical display down below for the 3 composite areas. And so what this says is, again, that star rating that we were used to seeing is displayed here. And then the participant scores along with the STS scores. And then down below, we have that graphical display. And so that composite rating report is the same for the esophageal cancer. So, and the same for this next graph that we're going to look at. It's just looking at the different cancer area. So the ratings detail. So this is that tabular display that used to come right next to the graphical display that gives you that more breakdown of the major complication. And what we allow here is these different counts relative to the area. Clicking on that would produce down below the case list for my selection. So here I clicked on the 2, and I would have produced the 2 records that met this criteria. So this is a drill down report, and you can see that information down below. The thing to note about this is once you're able to get into the report and move around, is if I clicked a row and I presented data here, when I exported the report, if I hadn't cleared the patient grid, and by that, you simply click outside the report. But clearing that grid will take that information out. So when you export your report, you're not getting that information exported along with it. The clinical staging procedures. So this report, we used to get, the table was on one side and the graphs was on another. And so what we've done is we have taken and created graphs for the detail areas up top, and we have the table of that information down below. And so it's all in one view here. And when we export, this is how it looks when it's exported. Something to note here is clicking a row, given that that we don't have as much space here for the patient list to produce below, the option on this page is clicking the row and clicking on that See Details. And once I clicked on that See Details, I would go to that, that page that has the patient breakdown. And then there would be a button on that page that would say See Graphs, so that I can navigate back to this page. I don't have that set up locally, but once I do, I can revisit this just to demonstrate how that would work. So these 2 reports are very similar to what we saw here when we looked at the ratings and the details, except this is now with that pulmonary resections. And so we, again, have those 3 domain areas, table display up top, and the graph down below. And then lastly, in this area is the risk-adjusted outcomes, where we're looking at that operative mortality and the major complication. So again, the table and graph concept. There are these, what we are calling other reports, where you'll find your missing data report, and along with the number of operations and mortality, which is just this quick table of the number of operations and your discharge and operative mortality. And then the primary procedure report, which again is this, takes all of our procedures. It's a very long, by organ system, the primary procedures. And so here we would see those participant and STS counts. And then finally, in the benchmark report section, is all of those reports that we used to get towards the back of that packet. So the breakdown of all of these different procedures into those different benchmarking areas. And so what you'll see here is each procedure, or each section up here, will have its own benchmark page. So I'm going to all esophagectomies, and then these are the benchmark areas. And so clicking on one would take me to that benchmark report. And then once I'm in one of the benchmark reports, just for ease of use, we have next buttons that will take you through the benchmark reports, and then a button right there that can take you back to the benchmark homepage. Finally, I would like to, though it's grayed out here, what you'll see, because this is still under development, is this button here will allow the user to click this button, and in one click, the report, all of the different sections of the report would be pulled together into one PDF, which, ta-da, is I did before the call, but is here. And so you can, if it's easier to export and look at it all in one PDF, if we want to share the PDF with anyone, we can export that report with one click and have that available to us. Okay. That's all I wanted to cover today. Again, we're still working through some of the, details of this. So if something looked like it's mock data, so if something seemed a little off today, we're just still working through it. And once it gets into production, everything will look the way we expect it to. But thank you, everyone. Melanie.
Great. Thank you, Rhonda. Melanie, did you have anything you wanted to address or anything you wanted to share?
Oh, no. I think she was just passing it over to me, but
Okay.
it would be going back over to you.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much, Rhonda. That was an excellent overview. That was really cool. It's nice to see all that coming together. I'm just and Rhonda had provided screenshots of her slides here, so it's included in the presentation and the slide deck.
One
One
item to note, just because a question did pop up on this. So this report will also, it is being reviewed by some of the GTSD surgeon leaders. It will be going through a round of user feedback review by a group of representatives before it releases to the full community. And we certainly will get this vetted. And once it is posted, it will be available to the surgeon users with access to the platform as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Jeanette. All right. Everyone is very familiar with these last slides. Again, IQVIA support plan. As always, just a friendly reminder, when you are contacting either STS or IQVIA, please be sure to include your participant ID in any and all communications. It's very helpful when we're trying to determine which site that we're trying to deal with. But yes, please include your participant ID in any and all communications with both STS and IQVIA. Also, again, here is the information provided for IQVIA. If you need their direct line to phone support, the tech support, you can reach them via the phone number, or you can also reach them via the email. The email address here, again, as you're aware, you're connected to Tier 1. Then Tier 1 will either answer your question or pass on to Tier 2 for additional follow-up or to STS accordingly. Again, here is a list of resources available to you out on the STS website. We have our contact information, webinar information, FAQs, a tier level support document that we just showed, training videos, and also there is a link to IQVIA to the data warehouse for data submission from the STS website as well. As always, if you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to me directly. My email address is here, ljones@sts.org, or you can feel free to call me directly. My number is listed here. However, I will say the best way to get in touch with me is via email. Also, if you have any database operational questions, please feel free to reach out to us at stsdb@sts.org. So if you have any questions related to participation agreements, your current contacts, updating contacts, direct data entry, anything in STS in general related, please, again, feel free to reach out to us at our stsdb@sts.org. Just a quick reminder, our next monthly webinar for thoracic is scheduled for November the 11th at 1:30 Central Time. Our next user group call was scheduled for November the 25th, the day before Thanksgiving. We did cancel that due to the holidays, as I'm sure most people will be traveling. And that's just not a good day for us to have that webinar. So we are looking at rescheduling. So we're going to look into December and get some, look at our webinar schedule and get another date planned for our next user group call. So more information about our next date for our user group call will be coming soon. With that, I'm going to turn things over to you guys for our question and answer portion of the webinar. Again, please feel free to or please include your ticket number. If you've already submitted a ticket, it should be an RITM number. If you ask about a tech support related question, that'll help Jeffrey and Jean and their team look up your ticket while we're on the phone. With that, I think we'll go ahead and tackle our first set of questions. All right, our first question, is there an update on the inability to perform PFTs at the time and the time frame for exclusion being accepted? And I know this, to be honest, Joy, I don't know. Carol, do you or Dr. Wormuth have any updated information regarding the time frame? I know if patients were unable to perform PFTs due to COVID, we asked that participants answered PFTs performed, no, and the reason indicate unable to perform. I don't know, to be honest, I don't know where this is in discussion with the task force. We do have a task force call coming up next week. So I can get further clarification on this question during our next task force meeting. So I will follow up. Carol?
Let's see if Dr. Wormuth has anything to add here, if he's available.
Yeah. I don't have anything new to add. I do think we have to talk about it at our next task force meeting. I do know on 5.21 that we got rid of the why didn't you get a PFT question, because we weren't really getting that. But we're still looking, if you have it, we're still looking for the FEV1, but I see it's a risk model. So we're going to have to make sure we have an answer for that.
All right, thank you. And we'll make sure to, again, discuss that on our next task force call. We'll bring that up. So Joy will follow up with additional information. It is. All right, our next question. If documentation for COVID says patient was positive in March 2020, no specific date, can we take 3/1/2020 as an acceptable date? Carol, I don't know, what are your thoughts on that?
We have to have a positive PCR test, so you have to have the date of a positive PCR test. We can't, I'm not sure when it says documentation, if that's a patient reported or if there's somebody else reporting it to the provider, but there has to be documentation of the results and that you have to confirm that it was a PCR test and the date that that test was performed, that patient coded positive. So you might have to do a little bit more digging on that one, Joy.
Thank you, Carol. Okay, our next question, it looks like it might be a little IQVIA related. I was using the dashboard report to look at complications, and I selected lobectomies only, but some of the patients that showed up in the data were segmentectomies. And I don't know if this is already, Mindy, if you've already reported this to tech support. If you have not, this is just, please contacting tech support for assistance and getting a ticket number issued. So Melanie and Jeanette and her team can look into that. I don't know if Melanie, Jean, if you guys have already had that issue reported or if you're aware.
We've been doing some quick checking behind the scenes, and we're not seeing the specifics that would be needed for us to dig into this further for you, Mindy. So if you've not already reached out to the support team, including your participant ID and the date range on the report, where you're seeing the discrepancy, and also, just a bit more details about which complications you're looking at, then we can look into this more specifically. If you have already reached out to the support team, we are just tracking through our ticketing system right now and are looking for that. So we will find that. But if you've not yet contacted us, please do so.
Great, thank you, Jeanette. Our next question, when did you say the harvest report was going to be out? Sorry if I missed this, not a problem, Judy. We are aiming to have the spring 2020 data posted mid to late November. As Jeanette said, Rhonda, just went over the dashboard, the reporting dashboard, and the risk adjusted reporting dashboard and the benchmark dashboard. That is, again, currently will soon to be beta tested by our surgeon leaders. And again, once that is complete, the beta testing is complete, and also IQVIA is able to get that data uploaded into the dashboard. Again, we're aiming for mid to late November for that information to be available. I don't see any additional questions. Did anybody have anything they wanted to add or elaborate on while we wait to see if another question comes in? Anyone have anything to add? I'm not seeing any additional questions come in. As always, just a reminder, if you have any questions that come up after this presentation, please feel free to email me directly. We're happy to get those questions answered for you. Again, if you have any dashboard or tech issues, please email tech support, and IQVIA and tech support will be able to address those questions for you. We just have one more question come in, and I'm glad you did send this in. Is the new data manager webinar scheduled for tomorrow? So SGS did send out a notification alerting the general thoracic community that that data manager webinar for tomorrow has been canceled. The current data manager, the new data manager webinar is currently posted out on the SGS website. It was recorded from our first go round, so that information is out there if you would like to go back and review that new data manager webinar. All right, that's all that I have. I don't have any more questions coming in. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Again, if you have any questions come up after this webinar, and please feel free to reach out to me directly. With that, I just want to thank everybody for joining today. Thanks to the STS team and the IQVIA team, and thank you to all of the data managers that joined us today. We appreciate your time. Thank you, everyone, and I hope you all have a good evening. Yes, ma'am.
Hold on one second. This is Carol. I just pasted the link for the webinars into the chat box and you can access that.
Oh, perfect.
Find the new data manager recording.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Carol. And again, if you have trouble locating that, just please feel free to email me and I can shoot you that link as well. So not a problem. And thank you for doing that, Carol. I appreciate that. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. I hope you all have a great rest of the week, and we look forward to having you join our next webinar. Thanks, everyone. I hope you all have a great evening.
Thanks, Leanne.